Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Majority Podcast. And today we are diving into the reality of livelihoods in Kenya. From the cycles of lipa pole pole to the recent rising tides of the floods in Kenya. What does it take to survive on the dreams with the dreams on the margins? And joining me for the discussion today is Mary Gichuki, a voice directly from the hearts of the communities. Karibu sana Mary.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. And to begin with our discussion today, how does the model of the daily micropayments like the M-Kopa and the Lipa Pole Pole shape the grassroots lifestyle and the people within the communities?
Models like Lipa Pole Pole, they're made to seem like it's not expensive, but if you do the calculation at the end of the month or after a very long period, you'll find that the consumers who use such models almost end up paying 50% more or almost the same amount to what equivalently they could have paid if they paid cash upfront.
Yeah.
An example, it uses the model like the hire purchase. You remember the hire purchase in high school or in school? Like you'll always pay higher. And unfortunately, this is what is the people, majority of the Kenyans are able to afford because you need a smartphone. You don't have the whole amount. What do? There is companies like Safaricom who have the Lipa Pole Pole. It looks like, okay, it's only 20 bob a day, but at the end of it all, this person has paid almost the same amount. So it becomes a very continuous process that it's very hard to get out of debt because you will be borrowing from here kujaza hapa kwingine, like, so it becomes a process that becomes very difficult. It's okay, we know billionaires grow with debt, like nobody, very few people have made it without debt. But you see, for billionaires or people who have made it, the interest rate is very low. But for the common Mwanachi, it's very high. So at the end of the day, it becomes a process that continuously, it's very hard to get out of the loop. And being that it's not only Lipa Pole Pole kwa simu, even gas, electricity, so it becomes that cycle. But you see, the problem is, it's because sometimes it's difficult to get lump sum money before. So they have to work daily, the daily wages, now it's divided. Simu, wapi, so they cannot, that's the lifestyle they're accustomed to, but by the end of the day, it becomes very.
And on the mention of that, I think the Lipa Pole Pole system is something that has also been embedded with the communities that are in the rurals. And it has been also adopted in the farming sector. And I want to understand, what was the structure behind, or what was the intention behind coming up with the Lipa Mdogo Mdogo system? Because I happen to look, it's something that is caging people in some sort of, you are indebted to something forever. And what is the structure, or what was the main intention towards having this thing come up?
Majority of the populace don't have the bargaining funds. So these systems comes where they're like, okay, we still want you to get this service, but now they make it look, it seems actually it's not expensive, because you see how they make it look like you're just going to pay a little bit of it. So, and being that majority of the people live with hand to mouth, being that it's simplified in such a way that it doesn't seem like so much si pesa nyingi, inaonekana si pesa nyingi, inaonekana ni pesa kidogo. So this system is structured where we have someone who has the capital and wants to get more. And because maybe this capital was idle and they want moving money, so how do? Go convince people who don't have now this capital to invest in the product, buy the product, and pay slowly, because you see, if they were to pay lump sum, they don't have that lump sum, so they will miss on the service. So it's more of being kidogo seduced on, you need this product, and actually some of them, they actually need it. And now the payment method, now the interest rate becomes very high. And then you see, because the people who are coming to sell the service, they're not selling it in a way that, you know, this is the interest rate you're going to do. You have to sit down as a person and say, is it, hii pesa nalipa zinapelekana? But you see, majority of them don't do that, because for them they are like, takuwa tunalipa mbao ama 200, like, and at the end of it all, I'll still get the service.
Okay. So recently, you happen to see that with most of the parts of the country, and more so within Nairobi, we happen to experience the floods. And also it happens to give me the thought, how does this reshape the livelihoods of the people at the grassroots level?
One, with the floods, which were very unfortunate, and maybe there are things that will have been done to avoid them.
To avoid them, yeah.
It's really going to restructure. Because for starters, there are people who have been living in riparian land. Like maybe they're not paying the rent, or if they're paying the rent, it's something affordable. So there has been misplacement. And so once it's misplaced, and with how the structure looks like, for them, one, they have lost everything, like they're starting from scratch. And how we know with the tenancy structure in Kenya, they first paying the deposit and stuff. These are people who have lost everything, and they're forced overnight to move. And in the first place, they were not staying in those places because they had abundance. They were staying in those places because, you know, they didn't have. And then majority of the people who are, majority of the affected people, they live hand to mouth. They have to go to work. So, and you see with flooding and everything, there is that need of, you know, looking for a house, or a lot of things, or first thinking about your safety. But for these people, majority of them, it's about niende kazi ama nilale njaa.
Yeah.
So like for them, come rain, come sunshine, they have to work.
Yes.
Because it's a continuous process where people have to work. Now imagine someone who was surviving hand to mouth, they have lost everything, they have to relocate, they have to start from scratch, buying house utensils and everything. So definitely there are aspects of their lives that are going to be affected. Already they were living, walikuwa mwisho kabisa, but now comes to a point where like now they're starting from scratch somewhere else, and being that they have to work for them to eat, so it becomes very difficult. So you'll find the things that should be in the basic need category, they are going to be ignored. Example, you'll find there are people who will tell you, like, for them, they just take 1 meal a day, because that's all they can afford. Now imagine someone who was in those extremes getting to a point they have to look for a house, pay deposit.
It means no meal a day.
Yes. Or even reducing the amount of that meal. And we know without proper nutrition, now it becomes even difficult. It brings other health issues.
And at the same time, during the flooding, the recent flooding that we've had within Nairobi, you happen to see some photos and videos circulating of people, like, you're from work and you find your house, it's fully flooded. Yes. Everything has been taken back to zero. And it gives me the thoughts, with the current economic conditions where everything is on a skyrocket, the price of everything is kind of high. What are some of the policies that just need to be put across to make sure that come next time, or these people are going to get the right compensation, and come maybe next time or another time, we are not going to experience such a thing at the same time?
I think, you see, counties like, example, Nairobi, or all counties after elections, we get an opportunity to create something called CIDP, the County Integrated Development Plan. This is a policy, a 5-year policy plan about where development is going to happen. And in that CIDP, it's divided to ADP, Annual Development Plans. And now each, like, and this is coming from manifestos of the leaders, and also the priorities of the people. You know, this flooding issue is not the first time.
Yeah, sure.
It has been happening over the years. And even you heard the governor saying that, you know, Nairobi has been flooding. But you see, if it has been flooding, it means we had the opportunity to put resources at work so that these resources can work for us. you know, our taxes, the taxes we pay or wherever we get the money from, it should work for us. And being that intentionally these funds are not put into the infrastructure that's going to support, already we can see the government is failing. And what policies can be put in place? Prioritizing such. Example, we have the drainage system. There are places that the roads will be built, no drainage. That means anytime it floods or we have a lot of rain, it's going to flood because there is nowhere the water is going. So one, having infrastructure, good infrastructure. Two, having, already we have Green Army. These are people who we pay for them to, you know, clean. The priority should be the drainage on the areas that the drainage are, because there are areas where there is drainage, but there is no proper, you know, they're not well done, or there is dirt and everything. Another thing, I don't think this is a policy issue. I think it's more of a moral high ground. Example, if you buy a banana, where do you, and you are outside, you're hungry, where do you throw that?
After consuming.
After consuming.
Kwenye nimesimama.
You get, now that becomes a problem, because you might only say, Green Army wataokota, sindio? But what if Nairobi, a place that has almost 5 million people, everyone was go dropping something somewhere waiting for Green Army? You see, now it starts with personal responsibility, because if we are disciplined enough, but now another problem becomes, do we have enough litter bins? I'm one person who is eco-friendly, and sometimes I'm forced to have in my bag, just have a non-oven, where like if I've eaten something or gone to a place and I put it there, and in the evening I have to dispose. But that shouldn't be the case. We are paying taxes, and these are things like, I know now with town, when it was modified, at least we have litter bins, but this calls to more litter bins so that mentally it sticks to us. You see a litter bin, litter there, and also continuously emptying of these litter bins so that they are not overcrowded, and now the water, the waste still goes back to the drainage. Another thing is where a lot of waste comes from. You see, in a lot of estates, we have there are collection areas, like a specific place. But then again, enough resources are not put to have the Nairobi City Council, vehicles going for this waste on a regular. So you'll find a place only once a month. That's when that lorry goes for the waste. And if it rains between, when the waste was collected there, it's going to be wiped, goes to the rivers, goes to the drainage. So it becomes a problem of, is the state really wanting to invest? And you see, it's a very lucrative, like Nairobi County signed, an agreement with a company for waste collection from Ghana. I don't remember the name, but it's from Ghana. That work should be done here in Nairobi. Why are we paying?
Why are you paying someone from Ghana?
From Ghana, that means even the resources that were, we have set aside for the garbage are not going back to the circular, economy. It's going to another country. You see, now this becomes problematic. And then being that from the 70s and 80s, garbage collection, which should be a government, service, yes, and responsibility, has been privatized. You'll hear someone saying, oh, why is it that Kileleshwa or Karen, they're not dirty? But for them, they have to pay for that money. A lot of, posh apartments, you go, there is service charge for security and garbage. You see, it has been privatized and it has become a very lucrative business. And that's why, the system is failing. Because if you can't afford to pay someone, I'm not saying this out of malice or anything, I'm saying this out of experience. I'm from Dandora, and Dandora has the biggest Yes, and I'm very keen on going to public participation. So one of the wards in Kariobangi North, all they wanted for one of the financial year was a proper garbage collection and continuous process. And we had the county sub-county saying that, you know, hiyo ni mlipe, si mlikataa kulipa the private, you know, these private big companies to come and collect the dust. You want the young people to do it for you. But you see, it's okay. If we pay the big companies, a lot of young people in that area are unemployed. So garbage collection for them is a source of revenue. But now you find a person who is supposed to now be providing solution, saying that, why is it that Kileleshwa, they don't, and you see Kileleshwa, they have the buying power for that private. But someone in Kariobangi, it's so much. But what these young people wanalipisha si pesa mob. And being that si pesa mob, they have Mkoko. With Mkoko, they can't go to Dandora dam site. So they just need an area where, you know, we collect, come put here. And because we have resources that are set aside to come and collect, you get. And this actually should be a government. So for me, what is failing is the system. Already policies are there, but do we have an intentional government, CC for environment, who are really like going out of their way to ensure that the needs of each citizens are met? You can't expect what is working in Karen to work in Dandora. What is the buying power? What's the bargaining power? What are the needs of the people of Dandora and what are the needs of people of Karen? If someone from Karen is able to pay for, you know, their private garbage because the system is failing, well and good. But this shouldn't affect someone from Dandora, Kariobangi, Mathare, because for them they don't have that, and yet we are paying taxes. You know, now brings the question of people saying, oh, you know, the middle class or the majority don't pay taxes, but we pay VAT. Anytime I go to a hotel, take tea, even if it's 200, there is a VAT. I always, hata napiganga picha kujikumbusha, like, you know what, I'm paying taxes, so the services should work. Nikirunua kiberiti, there is a percentage of that money that's going to the taxes. Yeah. But how are we using our taxes? Are we intentional with how we are using the monies? Is the government intentional about how they're using the monies they collect for our own good?
Okay, and it takes back me to the one of the point that you happened to mention at the start. We have the initiatives that are given a measure, a span of 5 years after every election, each county coming up with but they're always unmet with whatever that happened recently. Let's take an example of Nairobi. So I tend to ask, is it some sort of politics that are behind these initiatives that are just coming up just to like, kwa macho we are having these, but literally for us, we understand it's something that is going to be like it's not going to happen, like inwache tupende tuko na inji.
So what happens is, it's a very political process. Initially, before 2022, you'll find they have said public participation is on a certain area. But that morning, it changes to another place, another ward, where you have to use money, motorbike to go. You see, it's already discouraging. Already you are mentally prepared for here. And then you find yourself, if you're going for those public participation, it becomes very difficult if you're not well organized to have your point across. Another thing, public participation majority of the time happens, you know, during work. Even if someone is just going from Mjengo, ni kazi. Hata kama mtu ameenda kutamak, you know, it's time is that. And it happens majority of the time when a lot of Kenyans are engaged. Another thing is, there are times it's not well popularized so that people don't know. Or you get the message it's happening tomorrow and maybe you had other things planned. So you see, it's all political. But one thing I can say is, after 2022, the Nairobi civic space was a little bit open compared to before that, but still not to the extent we want. So, you remember I told you the CIDP, it starts when the governor comes in, the MCAs. So you see the manifestos, what's the manifesto of the governor and the MCAs, and now the priorities. But what happens is, unfortunately, majority of the priorities goes to what the governor's manifesto was. And it's so unfortunate that in the bid for the current governor to get into, power, he promised free food, which is good. Or it's subsidized, it's subsidized, which is good because it keeps actually children from going to school because they know at least we'll have a healthy meal. But then if you go to the Constitution of Kenya, is it the mandate of the county to provide meals for children? No. So you get a very big chunk of the money because you see the governor, the county put some monies there. Donors put money there, and the parent put some money, it's a few coins. But then again, you see this money the county is putting there, morally, it's good. It's keeping children in school. But constitutionally, it's unconstitutional because these resources are supposed to be used somewhere else. Maybe these resources will have been the one used to have, when they're creating roads, to have drainage. You get? So it becomes it's a very political process. And that's why it's important while going forward, hey manze, we don't have to vote with emotions. We have to think, interrogate the manifestos of the leaders we're having. Because you see the problem started even before the CADP was created. Because governor alisema aje, watoto watakula shule. Come May, come sunshine. Yalisha promise. And you see, what is the promise tracker? We look at the manifesto. Ulisema, utapa watoto shule. When it happen. And you see that a chunk goes there. But another thing, I think it's because with the older generation, I'm not from that generation, they were so much used to state repression that they feel actively taking part in state processes, it's like a sin. When I started, actively engaging with the county government, it was a very big task because are you the only one who can do that? Like, are you not fearing for your life? Like, because you see, that's the state. Like, you're going there, unaenda kupinga whatever maybe the governor wants or whatever, it might put, you get, there is that risk. But what people don't understand is, within 2010 Constitution, it provides for public participation. But you see now, unfortunately, with public participation, there is meaningful engagement and there is just that for rubber stamping. And you see, for the longest time, being that, watu wanaogopa. So it has always been that state of, hata nikienda huko hakuna kitu itafanyika. Let me tell you, that's a lie. I am from a ward where we have two distinct areas. I'm from Dandora area 4-5. So area 4, it's one ethnic group, which are the majority, which know how to go to the streets. So their things have to be streamlined. And then I'm from area 5. Area 5, it's, the people like whatever happens. And for the longest time, area 5, because when now the MCA is elected, majority of the win comes from the ethnic group of area 4. I don't want to state which ethnic group. But, so you could see a lot of development going there. And then I was like, okay, how can we do? We hijacked the process. I became one of the county facilitators from the county level. So when they say DP Nairobi DP was being created, I was there at the ground in my ward. And because I'm a county facilitator, we are taking part of the process, I was a secretary. And I can tell you for a fact, because even the MCAs know, like, kuna kenye MCA alisema anataka kufanyia watu wake. Ni CIDP itatengeneza. Si umesikia it's a 5-year plan. And then from hii 5-year plan, kila mwaka watakuwa naenda hapo wanangoa, wanakuja. You get? So the CIDP is a very important document, and what's not in CIDP or ADP cannot be covered in the budget. Like this becomes a justification. It's like a policy. Like this is a justification how money is going to be used. I can tell you for a fact, they were like, no, nothing is going to Area 5. But I'm like, no, you see, but I was the secretary. I bulldozed my way there. Kidogo kidogo, I can tell you some of the things that were proposed, ziko hapo. Kwetu kabro iko imefika. Imefika kwa mlango yetu. You see, and kitambo, it was so difficult to see how these processes can help you. You now, hata tukitoka Nairobi County, you remember the Finance Bill 2024? Yeah. At first, people are like, hakuna place itaenda. We organized with young people. We were like, you know what, whatever happens, we have to be there. I was among the few people who presented at KICC, and I presented as one of the first ladies. And I can't, from the presentation, it was not very much different from what other people had presented. I had the opportunity of being invited after that for a live session that was happening for a few minutes. And I remember one of the last things I said is, you know what, talk to your MP. Kidogo kidogo. You see, mimi nilisema to talk to your MP. I didn't really literally mean come with the other people who had other plans. You get? Yes. So this thing, this mentality of hakuna kitu ita happen, we need to change. And how, for me, what I do is, when I go to a restaurant or anywhere, I napiga picha ndo nijikumbushe, so that when I'm speaking to a leader or a politician or whoever they are, misikuogopi, as long as whatever I'm telling you is within your rights and what needs to be, you utanipea. Now imagine us as Kenyans go to that point of actually holding our leaders accountable. And being that saizi, you see, when people say that vitu hazita change, zina change. You saw the public outcry about Nairobi Hospital. You see, things are changing. So things can. It's a matter of us doing the work. And with the 2010 constitutions, manze, we have to be active citizens. Isi ile ilikuwa president, it's everything. Na, no, like, they're within the law. And we the people, like, the people shall. So for me, that's one thing that has been guiding. And it's something that if we were to embrace as Kenyans, it will make a very big difference.
Yes. That's a good way to put it. And maybe to ask you this question. Can a government grant build trust among the people? Pardon? Can a government grant build trust among the people?
This is where the government is giving people grants. Yes. Well, you see, if systems were working and the government did its work, the grant will just be a plus. Why am I saying system working? Today, the government can decide to give all of us, grants, all the people from Mashinani. But if the hospitals are not working, if I can't have access clean water, if, it's difficult, it becomes very difficult to even build that trust. It's like putting a bandage on someone who has broken their leg, and then amevunjika mguu na kona kidonda inatoa damu, and then unaweka bandage. You see, it's face value but not actually solving the problem. So for me, my recommendation is grant is good, but at this particular point where we are, manze, we don't need grants. We want working systems. And why am I saying working systems? When you have a working system, even if you don't have money and you get sick, and you go to a public hospital, you're going to get all the services. Majority of your stress reduces. If you have access to clean water, like, government provided clean water as it should, like unapima maji na meters. Unaona venye if you have in posh nini, unapatanga hata the money people in apartments spend, and people in informal settlement. Someone in informal settlement, they use a lot of money because mtungi moja ni 20 bob, 30 bob. But imagine if this person had access, this maji ilikuwa imefika mpaka kwake. They don't have to spend the extra coin on water. Imagine getting to a point where garbage is collected by the government. You don't have to pay the extra money, because you see, if we use our taxes well, things are going to work. And you see, the work of the government, it's not about providing grants. The work of the government is ensuring the systems are working. So for me, grants or small loans here and there, that's just a way of, you know, closing people's eyes. But if you are a wise person, we jua tu hiyo pesa kidogo unapewa, utalipia hapa mbele, and it will be way kwa saizi, tell me why tumefika 12 trillion debt, and systems are not working. We are so much overtaxed, but systems are still not working. And then we have small monies here, which cannot even sustain you having that business, having it becomes, let me not even talk about it. So grants.
And literally, that one takes me to the question of, we had the introduction of the Nyota program. Yes. Basically, it was an initiative that was quoted to empower the young people, the youth. Recently, the utterances of the CS of Cooperative, that's Oparanya, happened to mention that's a loan that was taken and Kenyans will have to pay for it. How does that affect the local communities?
You see, and that's the thing. I don't know which politician said this utterance. Yes. Pesa tasia mamako. Yes. I don't know, but this is something has always stuck in my mind. And this is what even made me start thinking about, you know, how taxes actually really affect us. So having a government, rather than solving the pertinent issues, going to borrow a loan, which we are going to pay with very high taxes, giving a few Kenyans, who majority of them are unemployed, so they don't even have a structure to pump in this money. That it's like something to kickstart something, and we all know for business to, you know, to survive, they need around six months. 22,000 cannot sustain a business for 6 months. You get, but because they want to save face, they go and do that. And I feel so bad that as Kenyans, we have gotten to that point where we have a government that doesn't listen to the people. And even if it does, it doesn't think at the long run, what are we going to do? Example, currently where we are seated with where our debt is, it's very bad. For every 100 shillings we collect, 70 shillings goes back to debt repayment. So we are left with 30 shillings. And with this 30 shillings, being that we have, you know, recurrent expenditure is very big, because even majority of the monies goes to recurrent expenditure. This is paying the rents, everything, bills, salaries, pension, everything. Very few goes to development. Yet, we want to develop. How are we really going to develop? Like, it begs to question. Another thing, it's the kind of, you know, bad investments the government is doing. I believe if you are doing well financially and the government sets the National Infrastructure Fund, it will have made sense. We are living at a deficit. And then we have a government which thinks, okay, let's have the National Infrastructure Fund. But what they want to, it's to bypass the processes by control of budgets, you know, Attorney General, who have been the biggest, you know, eyes for the populace, who have been seeing there is discrepancies in budgets and stuff. But they want to bypass that. And you find, example, you know why I'm saying we have a government that is not intentional. Example, like we had the Talanta Fund. This was funds for creatives. but how many creatives benefited? And yet it had a lot of money. You see, a country like Rwanda, for them they negotiated with TikTok, monetizing content. You see, the work of the government, it's about creating laws that are going to ensure that the citizens themselves can fend. It's not about being given fish today. It's about being taught how to fish. But is the government intentional enough to go the extra mile and not just give fish for today? Invest in ensuring that the people of Kenya, they themselves are able to get to a point where they can fend for, we can fend for ourselves. Yes, I hope I've answered that.
And I think it also brings in the question of the allocation of the funds, like being awarded the Nyota programs, everything. And like, how does the local communities perceive things, being given that the president and the cabinet, they chose to have this thing given partially to just a number of the youth, like a smaller percentage. So how does the sentiments coming from the CS himself, like it's a collective loan that we are all going to pay for people at the grassroots level, how does it impact them?
You see, the thing, initially, how it was structured or how it was sold to the people, you know, these are funds from World Bank to the people. The details were never put out there, like it's a loan. Yes. Until the loan is taken and has been dispersed to a few, that's when now the details comes in. And it's so bad because either you got the money or you didn't get the money. In one or another, you're going to pay for it. And it's, you see, with Nyota, at least it's going to even, you can see where some of it is going, because it's not all of it. Because majority of the funding utakuja tu upate. You see the structures they put while they are launching might even be, it's in millions of money, and the money being given. You see, we're not doing the right kind of mathematics as a country. We have leaders who actually, they're just thinking, what can we eat from this perspective? And it's so sad. And, you know, sometimes when you start questioning things, by intentions, they're not put out there. And it's very difficult. Yeah. Example, even coming out of the Nyota Fund, like this is about access to information. You remember the health, what we signed with the US, the health one. To date, we don't know what was there, the data, what our medical data has been sold, or what it took for that to happen. So having leaders who actually don't think about us are making our lives difficult. And because, you know why? It's because they don't walk with us. For them, the only times they want to relate na common Mwanachi is for PR and campaign season. So we're heading towards a campaign season. Oh Lord, utaona wakijenga na matope, wakifanya nini. But for them, you see, that's just something they have to do for a few hours to show PR, tunaelewana na watu. But in actual sense, they have not lived the real experience of people. Because if they have actually lived the real experience of the people, manze wangekuwa nacheza na maisha ya watu venye wanacheza. Because we can't take a loan for face value and PR, where yet systems are not working, hospitals are not working. Because you see, in countries where, like in Europe, you hear a lot of them comparing, when it comes to taxes, they compare us with Germany, a lot of big, you know, countries, when they're highly taxed, but systems are working. But you see, the countries that they are, you know, trying to compare us with, there are people who don't even know their MPs, their members, their representatives. They don't know the mayor. There are countries where the prime minister can take a bike to work and have only just a few bodyguards. But here, a mayor, member of parliament, akona, you get. Wanatuogopa hata wataki kurelate na sisi, wakona bodyguard hata akona gun. You see, like those disparities, like the system has been designed in such a way that either you're ultra rich or you're poor. And the unfortunate bit is if us as Kenyans don't unite, doesn't have to be a problem at wewe unapitia kila siku for you to speak about it or to do something about it. It's about us collectively. You see, for a very long time, watu wale wamekuwa kikapitia ni watu wale wanaishi Mathare, Dandora. But even with the current tax increasement, it's going to affect mpaka middle class. Unaona wale I don't do politics. Politics is starting to do them.
Wameingia siasa lazima.
Itabidi kwa sababu unapata hata mtu ako like, you know, at this rate nipeni taxes, mchukue ile mshahara inabaki. Kwa sababu the disparities are too high. Being taxed is not a problem, but the problem is we are not seeing value for money. And now imagine this is a middle class feeling it. Now imagine that person who has to wake up daily with their income being that nile pesa ameenda amefanyia kazi hiyo siku. Ndio atakula atafanya nini? And nakwambia like a lot of priorities zina change. Zingine zinafika inabidi watoto waende shule hata bila viatu. Ama venye ilikuwa imefika mpaka watoto waende shule. The program, a feeding program, I have no problem with it, but you see it's unconstitutional. Yet this should be something ya national government. And you see it's so unfortunate that tunaenda tu nyuma. You see the system we had mbeleni, it was not the perfect. Like ile a free education. But you see, it was not free. It was publicly funded. You see, the terminologies zenye zinaekangwa zinapuuzilia kitu. Because kisemekana ni free, hakuna you can't see the correlation between the taxes you pay and that free service being provided. But now imagine we have gotten to a point where we are being overtaxed, but even publicly funded, they are not working. But you see, it's by design. Because who are brokering these other services? Where are their children going? We need to get to a point where we can make even policies or law. You are an MP of a certain area. Unaishi huko, people have access to you. Watoto wako wanasomea primary school ya huko. If you were to do that, I think Ndindi Nyoro is among the only few MPs who can comfortably stay back at Kiharu. But the rest, hata wajuangi, wanaonekananga tu kote ya campaign.
They are all in Nairobi.
Watu wao wako international school. They don't even understand the chaos CBC is causing. And this is another thing. Umeuliza to like how the loans can affect the, you know, local people. Ukiangalia kama CBC how it is. CBC can be a good system, but with proper infrastructure and proper monies being funneled to it. But saizi it's on its knees. Saizi inabidi wewe kama mzazi uangalie mfuko yako kwenye inafika. Uone kwenye mtoto wako ata afford. Because they're different levels. And trust you me, there is a very big difference from someone who is getting premium CBC na ile ingine yenye hata kwenye hakuna printer. So you know they sometimes tell you, oh, go download a photo of whatever. There are people who have printers at home, which is now becomes cheaper. Then kuna wale lazima waende wa print. Kitu ni 40 bob, 50 bob. Ni chakula utakula, ama ni kuprint utaprint. You get? Like those disparities, the CBC has come to open and continue opening that scope. Because kama saizi, will you trust even a public school? Wacha venye tunasemanga ni polling station. Now it's going to be worse. Na being that structure is not well structured. Because you see, if you take your child to a private institution, you ask them to be accountable. Mko na junior high school, mko na vitabu, mko na walimu. But kwa government, unaenda kuuliza nani? Na pesa si ya mama yako.
That's the statement that is. Okay, and moving away from that, from the issue of grants and whatever, recently we had the government coming up with the demolitions, watu kuhamishwa. And I tend to think, more so for the urban communities, the local urban communities, what is the long-term effects given the current economic condition that we are having?
Well. Before I even get there, the disparities in demolitions. Last year when it flooded, Runda kuli flood. But uliona hata nyumba moja ya Runda imeshikwa. Mathare, na kuambia nyumba ziliteremshwa. Ni sawa, walikuwa kwa riparian land. But do you know, to some areas will end up to 100 meters. And I know it's one of the program funded by World Bank. There is the Nairobi River something by World Bank. It's a multi-billion-dollar project that was supposed, to whatever it was supposed to do. But you see the disparities already there. Now imagine we're getting to a point where even areas which are not in the, riparian land being demolished. And some people have stayed there for years. They're not given proper timelines. Ni sawa, watu wamejenga kwa land si yao, but wanaishi. Where is the humanity of it? Where have the government even thought out, awa watu ya ukweli ndio wakuja kujenga hapa, hawakuwa na otherwise. Ama the previous government will fail, because if the system was failing in the first place, those people will not have constructed there. But ni sawa tumejipata hapa. Is there even a compensation mechanism? Hakuna. Kuna ingine tu mnabomolewa, mnaangushiwa. And you see, it's such things that makes you start thinking, kuna watu wale wako na Mungu mkubwa, wengine wako na Mungu mdogo. And that should be the thing. Humans, there is no dignifying of humans. Kama una do, there is dignity kidogo with the current regime, ama the current government haupati, which is very unfortunate. Because imagine there are people who, for them, they bought land, they didn't hawakwenda hata kujenga kwa reli ama nini. They bought land. They even have title deeds. But because of corruption and everything, waliuzua land yenye si yao. Inakuja inagongwa. Someone invested their hard-earned money. Unarudisha mtu mwenye alikuwa anaishi kwake kwa rentals. And in some cases, it's so bad, there is no enough time to even move. Zingine ni 2 weeks notice. Huku ni kwako. 2 weeks, ujaza hata hauna pesa hata kwenda kurent. You get. Some of them ni overnight. Like unakuja tu mnaangushiwa. And that same energy, there are people wale hawapewi. There are people wale wamejenga kwa riparian land in affluent areas. It's not affect. For them, ni kama mungoni, like ni kama gava uko yonangi. And in some areas, hata ingine ni kugrabiwa na grabiwa. Example, during COVID. Let's just go back to COVID. When watu wa Kariobangi South walibomolewa. Wanabomolewa ndo structure ya water treatment ya Northlands itengenezwe. I don't know if the land was government owned or personally owned, but where is the humanity in it? And you see, as I had talked even with flooding and everything, once you're displaced, already some of these people, it's hand to mouth. Hata hakuna ile saving power. So imagine, sasa umetoa mtu kwenye alikuwa amejiestablish kidogo, umemrudisha nyuma a few steps. Sasa wanataka mtu alikuwa anakula 1 meal asikule akufe ama afanye nini. You get, there is no humanity in how some demolitions have been handled. Mukuru, and then you see areas like Mukuru, the demolitions that happened, some of those land, ndio affordable housing itajengwa, sindo? You know the unfortunate thing ni gani? Mtu mwenye alikuwa anaishi hapo mbeleni haizi afford is affordable housing. Like there is that, it's as if you're poor, it's a punishment in this country. And the situation will continue to be dire. And you see, already with systems failing, it's a holistic, disparate move. Because ukiangalia in informal settlements, ndo kuna a lot of children, vijana ni wengi. Ndio wamedemolishiwa, wamefanywa nini. So naanza kupigana ngeta. So insecurity goes up. It's just a very sad situation, being that we have people who are not even thinking about it. While they're making it, for them, they're from a point of this needs to be done now.
Okay, and on the part of the government, what are the necessary policies or the necessary steps that ought to be made just to ensure that come next time or another time, with a hard economic condition that people are facing, we are not having so much effect that is being caused to the local communities?
Yeah, I think they can wait until the systems are working for some things to happen. And also this calls for being proactive, because you see, land is a gavama, wherever public lands being snatched, it's not something that happens overnight, it's something that happens gradual. And already being that we have resources that goes to different government, it's for these institutions to be proactive, so that we don't get to a point where innocent Kenyans wameuziwa shamba ya public wanakuja kutolewa usiku. Na maybe hata mtu alienda kufanya search ikapatikana, ama in one or another they have a title deed. You see, hizi ndo vitu zenye they make you even question. Two, humanity. Kuna vitu zingine manze, when we put in the humanity, ama we humanize people before we even have policies. Because you see the unfortunate bit, we have people who make policies na watu wako kando. Example, I told you I'm an eco babe. I love conserving the environment in one or another. NEMA came up with a very good policy about, reverse taxing manufacturers were single-use plastics. And one of the things that were going to be affected was menstrual products and diapers. If you do reverse it, consumer anaenda kupata do. Anaenda kupata that effect. Because yes, wanataka product manufacturer kitengeneza product, inataxiwa mpaka pesa ya recycling, which is good on paper. But ukienda kwa ground, already kuna issues za sex for pads. There are people who can't even afford that menstrual product as it is now. So ukiongeza taxes hapo, it goes back to the consumer. This means now even more women are not going to be able to afford products that are necessary for them, are to dignify them. And that's why it's important to have gender responsive public service. Gender in this case doesn't have to be women peke yake. You look at the needs of your populace before making, policy decisions that are going to affect the populace. Think about the needs. Think about how is this going to affect the common Mwanachi. Meet the common Mwanachi somewhere. And in such a situation where things are not working, ya ukweli, there is need to be that humanity in it. Because yes, there are places that need to be demolished, but there are ways you can go about it. And then equality in doing whatever. Mkiputisha policy ni 30 meters kwa mto.
Yeah.
Kutoka Runda, Kileleshwa, hata kama State House iko hapo, kate hiyo kitu. Like hakuna story, you get.
Yeah.
Ndio kukua na ile equality na equity, because unapata laws ni kama they are made for the poor.
Yeah.
There are people who are above the law. No, everyone should be governed by the law.
Okay. And as we move to a close, what does the dreams and aspirations for a local grassroots person look like? And what is their perception of their mainstream society?
Grassroots people. Hey manze, it's tough. But we can still make it. And the thing is, politicians awenangi Karen kuitisha kura. So wakujanga D, wakuja Kariobangi. Manze, 2027. Hey, we have to make it. And not only do that, there is this very beautiful campaign ya Niko Kadi. Niko Kadi should be there, like you should, as a young person, ama anyone, fikiria about it. Then kishapata kadi, unatumia hiyo kadi kurudisha nani? I know situation ni ngumu, but tao mbili, manze tao mbili tuteseke miaka ingine 5 tutatoboa hiyo pesa itakusaidia wiki moja. But the other times ni sisi tukae chini tufikirie who we want. And then another thing, kiongozi, ebu angalia manifesto yake. The leaders of 20, we need to start to get to a point where we are interrogating with the manifestos. YMCA, women, everyone. I know presidency is important, but the most important person ni hapa chini. Because I can tell you for a fact, mtu wa Kiharu ako very much different na mtu mwenye kwao CDF haifanyi kazi. Yes, tuko the same economic situation, but at least mtu wa Kiharu akoshua hata kama nini haifanyi kazi, shule mtoto wake anaweza peleka mtoto wake shule ya public, it looks good, well equipped, you get. Rather than huku kwingine, you have to think of even a private institution, yet it's something that the government inafaa. And how does grassroots person look at the mainstream populists? It's not a very good thing, because you see, for the longest time, the mainstream people hawajakuwa kifeel like, majority of the time, this is the population that I don't do politics, I don't do, you get. So, and that's unapata, hata stories za insecurity, gunism, zinaongezeka. Msewadi, ameshazoea. Wata wako na understanding, like, kuna mtu hezi pigwa ngeta. But, wewe mtu wa katikati, it doesn't look good for you. And it's because for the longest time, the middle class populace have been indifferent. They have not been engaging. Yet they have the buying power. They somehow at all they are a good number, and some of them are in a position where they can influence. So how mtu wa chini anaangalia mtu wa juu ni venye nitaomoka. There have been a recent spike in, snatching of phones, iPhones, Samsung. Unapata simu mtu alinunua almost 200,000, inauza 10,000. Si ati mtu ajui hii simu ni ya 200,000, but for them hawakuwa na food, hawakuwa na nini. Hii ndio imemsukuma wiki 2. You get. Nah, they even very much willing on the process. If they lose their life, well and good, they're not suffering. So this is just a wake-up call. Even if something is not affecting you, able speak about it. Because they say, once the poor have nothing to eat, they will eat you. And we have started seeing the signs. What is it that you can do in your own small capability to speak about it? You see, later in politics, no, everything is political. And it's so unfortunate that now things are going to even be worse. Already, tuko rock bottom, but now tunaenda kujua rock bottom iko na basement. Why? Because of vita Iran, na Israel, na US. Si mafuta bado ija change, ni kidogo tu. Mafuta ipande. The minute mafuta imepanda, kila kitu else ina skyrock juu. And it's so unfortunate. Sisi tuko na mafuta Lokichar. We invested billions there. After ile shipment ya kwanza, tumaiendea crude oil huko tena.
And we've never been given a report, anything to do with it.
I was in Lokichar. I can tell you for a fact. I was told, ilikuja tu mara moja. Your shipment venye ilitoka, that was it. And another thing is, it's for us when we see white elephant projects. Ebu we call them out. Mkiangalia tu chini muangalia kitu, hai make sense. Manze, you call them out. And initially what I was speaking about, interrogating manifestos. I know people can be, oh, you know, we are held up and everything. I've seen people like in Laikipia, where they even have their public participation on X. Like, there are people who know they'll be physically there. But because not everyone can make it to public participation, wanna hold X na different mpaka key leaders. And then they have someone writing it up. So akienda present, they're presenting what majority wanasema, you get. So in one, we can't afford to say, oh, we can, we have to. We have seen online platforms doing the work. Sometimes, ama kama wewe hawezi fanya, kuna community-based organizations that are doing a very good job. Have you ever even, hata usipe pesa nini UN, hapo kwa community yenyu, hakuwezi kwa kosa CBO, yenye ina deal na something ya ku hold the government accountable. Ay, weke 10,000, weke 5,000. Ukiwekea 5,000, hiyo imetosha chai ya siku kadhaa, vijana wakipanga vitu on how to hold the government accountable. You see, it becomes easier when systems are working for us. You might be unemployed, but at least unajua hata niko na maji safi ya kunywa. Niko na hospitali, unatafuta tu food. You get? And we collect a lot of money. Na hii pesa ikitumika vizuri manze, everything itakuwa sawa.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, and I believe we have the responsibility to put our communities in the right place. And
yes.
The whole thing starts with us. And Mary Gichuki,
yes.
It was nice having you for this discussion.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana.